Calling the meeting to order of the Dudley Charlton Regional School District School Committee on September 13th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And we're at the Shepherd Hill Regional High School Library. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and we're going to have our moment of silence, but we're also going to remember Louise DeJordy, who recently passed. She was a teacher and a guidance counselor here in the Dudley Charlton Regional District, specifically at Shepherd Hill, working here for 25 years. All right, and then moving on to the consent agenda items. We already have the warrant going around. There's the approval minutes of the regular meeting, August 21st, 2023, that we're going to pull out. They're not ready yet. And so for the consent agenda, it's the minutes of the regular meeting of August 30th, 2023, and the approval of minutes of executive session of August 30th, 2023. Does anybody have any objections? They want to pull out anything else from that consent agenda? Okay. So I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the omission of the August 21st, 2023 minutes of that regular meeting. Oh, we can just say yes, right? Yeah. So all those in favor?
Yes.
All right, that was unanimous. All right, and then on to communications. Does anyone have any communications? Yes, Stephen?
Oh, sorry. Madam Chair, I just want to share that we did receive the alert today, as well as everybody else in Dudley, that their EE is marked high. We did receive that this afternoon. I did already communicate with the athletic director here at the high school, as well as had set up a call tomorrow morning with the Board of Health for Dudley, just to see where communication is. And I also went back and started researching what we did in 2019, for those of you who remember 2019. So we are preparing communication for tomorrow in action on our part regarding the high rating for Dudley. Now, the high rating isn't just for Dudley, it's also for Oxford and Webster in our neighborhood, and Sutton and Southbridge. The other towns in our community are still moderate in our vicinity, but it is something we're paying attention to. And again, we will work on some type of communication tomorrow. Obviously, we want to avoid the dusk to dawn time frame moving forward. Sunset right now is at 7:18. Obviously, today was not a good day to tell when the sunset was setting, but sunset is typically 7:18, a little after 7 right now. And again, our goal is to avoid the dusk to dawn, but work with our athletic department, our Board of Health in Dudley, and other individuals. So that's the one communication I wanted to share this evening with you and the public.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
I just have something to bring up. Just because I don't see it in your report, so I'm curious if we can just find out a little bit more information about last Thursday, I believe it was, with the heat. It sounds like it was pretty hot in some of the schools, and I feel like every couple of years it gets really hot. And this year around, having the Board of Health check in on one of our schools, if we could just get some sort of update on that.
I did send out an email to everybody. I think you received it as well. The building was extremely hot in Charlton, but also any building that didn't have air conditioning in it was extremely hot. I do work, as I shared in my communication, I do work with area superintendents and area departments. Yes, the Board of Health in Charlton, somebody called the Board of Health to go visit Charlton Elementary School. So I was there when Mr. Philbrook was there. I visited all the schools as well. They were hot, there's no question about it. We tend to fall into those hot categories. As any early release or any day unscheduled, it's a very difficult call. Again, I work closely with my colleagues and peers around us, and it wasn't. Should it have been in hindsight? Maybe. But then, our discussion runs around where do we draw the line? Is it 92 degrees, 94 degrees? Is it high humidity? Is it 88? It just, with high humidity, it's just, where do you typically draw the line? And it was a very difficult decision. Visiting the schools, I thought the overwhelming majority did well. Yes, they were hot kids, they were hot adults, including myself. I've learned if I go visit the schools not to wear a long sleeve shirt and a tie if I'm going to spend hours in the school. But they were hot, and hopefully we're past that at this point in time. But just like winter storms tend to now fall in February, March, I think hot summer days tend to fall in the beginning of September. So, as you know, like Shepherd Hill, we did put forward a feasibility study, which was not supported by the town of Dudley, to determine whether we could upgrade Shepherd Hill for heat. I know the high school went through a lot of alternatives, offered teachers movement in the building. I know that there was flex scheduling. I know that students could be outside. There really is no line. Again, school committee can set a policy. If you as a school committee would want to set a policy and say when it's 92 degrees, we'll have early release days, that's school committee's purview. But otherwise, it is in the hands of, I own the decision at the end of the day and take the heat for it, literally. Where school committee wants me to go with that, I'd be always open to your feedback.
No, thank you. I do appreciate all the effort put in, and that you visited the schools and the teachers and the students made it through the day. I just wasn't sure, I guess, if there was a line, I guess, where that is, or what the Board of Health suggests, if there's a line. Do other towns have one? I mean, I know you said you were in contact with them. I just didn't know if we're looking back at AAA. I didn't know if we look back at the last time it was that hot, what we did, or that kind of thing. Going forward, I
There are
suppose.
vague lines for heat. There are more specific lines for cooling, meaning that when it's cold out, what the temperature in the building should be. So the Board of Health uses the line of 88 degrees or above. They consider it a health hazard. It doesn't means that somebody could take the authority to shut it down. And if the health director from Charlton wanted to shut us down, he certainly had that right. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education kind of gives you the criteria that as long as the temperature inside is matching the temperature outside, then it's safe to be open. It's no real hard line. But as far as a temperature like 68 degrees during the winter months is a hard line for them, and OSHA and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what we're working with. But again, if school committee wants to set a policy, anything over 90, we shut our schools down for half a day, I will do it every time.
Okay, well, I think that's going a little bit now outside the bound of communication, so
Sure,
maybe
okay.
a
Maybe we
future
should put on
agenda
to-
item.
Yep, I was just going to say, maybe we
or
should have more
bring
discussion.
over to policy subcommittee.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then as for communications, I have one from Kenny LaFerriere, who's the chair of the Dudley Charlton Special Education Parents Advisory Council, for the first meeting of the year being over at Charlton Middle School in the library on September 20th. Yes? Okay. And which you would get to have a conversation with our Director of Pupil Personnel Services, Heather Harriman, and for anybody who, even personally me, had issues with Vanpool, that a Vanpool representative will also be there. So, and thank you for getting that set up. Any other communications? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the superintendent's report.
Madam Chair and School Committee, I do have just a few items. I do want to share with you that, typically this meeting has a light agenda. Typically, we have more. I don't know how to explain this other than being factual. With the late stages of our budget, with the opening of the year, with the lack of support in central office, things are moving at a slower pace. So typically, this meeting would be talking about the professional development, curriculum initiatives, things that we're working on, curriculum priorities for the year. We're not there yet, so that will be at the next meeting. So things are moving at a fairly decent pace in our office, but it's not the same, to be clear. The first item I want to share with you is our website. Our website continues to be updated. I think I've shared this before. Keep in mind that our school committee packets are behind the agenda on our websites the day of the meeting, so those at home can see the documents that are shared at school committee, with the exception of minutes or anything executive session. We are very excited to have this new upgraded website, which the community has been asking us to do for a couple of years now, and it was one of our goals 2 years ago. I want to publicly acknowledge our webmaster, Ms. Kelly McDonald, for her commitment to this project, and to Ms. Erin Clark, who has supported Ms. McDonald. Keep in mind that we are moving, we haven't moved back yet, but We had a lot of positions that were stipended positions that we're trying to absorb in the district office. And keep in mind that Ms. Kelly McDonald is a full-time teacher who is also a webmaster for the district. So it is still undone. We're still building it. They are working with principals and administrators and secretaries. They will be instrumental in building out the new site. We're trying to build in consistency with it. For those of you who had concerns with how it looked in the past because of the inconsistencies between the 7 schools. The site will provide metrics also so that we will move top clicks forward as we use it in our community. And there will also be a feedback loop as well that we're working on right now, so that if you have a concern or a question about something about a specific school, you can actually provide that feedback to the building principal. So it is new. We're working on it. We're building it out. It looks much better from my perspective. It was quite a migration. As much as a new software will tell you that they'll migrate everything perfectly and smoothly, it doesn't always happen that way. So there are some things that are on there that we still need to scrub, meaning to pull away and add things that are more pertinent to the website. The next item that I have to report on is that our principals have done a Herculean effort in hiring staff after August 17th to move our district and put as much as in place as we possibly could to the start of school and during the first week of school, week and a half. They have continued to have well-qualified individuals who are temporarily placed in some of these positions, but we still need to fill some key positions. We do have some recommendations coming forward today. So even what's listed on here, which was submitted yesterday, we have newer positions coming forward today. Some of those may create new postings in new buildings because it's continues to be movement within our buildings. But right now, we are still looking for school adjustment counselors. I think some of the concern there is we are communicating that they are one-year positions because they are in the ESSER grant. So, people may not take that on. We are looking for a full-time middle school Spanish teacher at Charlton Middle School. We do have a recommendation for a full-time technology teacher at Dudley Middle School today. So we hope to have that position filled shortly. We are looking for a permanent high school special education teacher. And we are looking for we believe we have a full-time high school librarian today or soon as well. So we're working on that. In addition, the position that we most need across our district, and you can see on School Spring, is that of a paraprofessional in multiple environments. So in my report this evening, I wanted to advertise that these are real positions. These are permanent positions. These are benefit-eligible positions for those who are interested in it. The hourly rate is anywhere from $17.88 per hour to $24.99 per hour, depending upon education and also experience. There are also additional stipends available for individuals that we hire for certain things, depending upon their assignment within our district. So we are still in need of paraprofessionals. We will try to send something out. We do post it on a regular basis. We try to refresh the posting, but I think almost every school is still in need of a paraprofessional, if not more than one at this point in time. In addition, we continually look to build our substitute nurse pool. One of the main reasons is because our nurses do have families in life, so sometimes they do have to take a day, which they have a right to, but we really need a nurse in our buildings when that day is taken, that PTO, paid time off, is taken. A credentialed nurse can earn $220 per day in the Dudley Charlton Regional School District, which still ranks amongst the highest within our region. Typically, every couple of months, a survey goes out about what you pay a school nurse, and we're still ranked in the higher range for a day for a school nurse. So we continue to try to build that. That is posted on School Spring as well. We look for applicants for a school nurse. We post all of our openings on our website, which the link is in there. And then if you are interested in any position that identifies a school, please contact the principal or a special education coordinator. And you'll see further down, special education coordinator, we have a new special education coordinator, Miss Andrea Ostrowski, that Ms. Harriman has recently hired, who will be, starting with us in the beginning of October 2nd to be exact. So we're looking forward to her starting, because we did have a special education coordinator who resigned from her position at the beginning of the school year. And that concludes my report.
Great. Any questions for Mr. LaMarche? No? Okay. All right, moving on to public comment. Is there anybody here who wants to speak for public comment? No? Then on to new business for the report of the Director of Finance and Operations, Director Matthew.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of items for our school committee this evening. First, attached in the packet is the annual asbestos notification. This is the official notification to school committee. It happens annually at this time of the year. It'll be sent to all schools and posted on our website. Schools will be sending it home in their newsletters, and we'll update all of the appropriate documentation in the asbestos books.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's important if coming from a district that had a lot of asbestos, I think it's important to, at least for the public, to hear the schools that do have asbestos containing materials in them. Is Charlton Elementary School and Shepherd Hill. Those are the only 2 schools out of 7. All the others do not have asbestos present. So I just wanted to, I know we do this annually, but I don't think we also highlight the work that was done on previous schools or schools in our district. Some of them were constructed after asbestos, but I think it's important for the community to know that there are only 2 schools out of 7 that have asbestos-containing materials in it.
Thanks. Next, just a quick update on the middle school roofs. Both projects are in their wind-down phase. The roofing itself, replacement, lifting up of the old roof and putting on the new materials is completed at both schools. The work inside is completed in Dudley, and minimal work remains at Charlton Middle School. The expressed expectation is that both projects will be at substantial completion by the end of September, and the project finalized in the first couple of weeks of October. The district was very fortunate to have very qualified architects overseeing the job, Mr. Karen on site daily to ensure work was progressing, and a local vendor who was committed to completing the job as quickly as possible, even going so far as to delay the start of other jobs to make sure that he got finished up in Dudley and Charlton. At one of the upcoming meetings, we'll invite the vendor and Mr. Karen in to give an overview of the job. If there are no questions, next is an update on the Mass Strategic Health Group, the participation agreement. The Mass Strategic Health Group has grown significantly since its inception in 2019. Starting with 3 members, ourselves included, the group is now up to 14 active members. With that growth, a subcommittee of members, myself, the town of Webster, the town of Douglas, and the town of Medway, have been working to secure group legal counsel and also revise the existing participation agreement. Attached to the memo and in the shared Google Drive was the end product. The changes simply introduce more formal language around management of the group, criteria for entrance, process for exiting, and use of shared revenues. The updated structure will serve all members well. Earlier today, the MSHG board met so that we could ensure the appropriate timeline for approving this revised agreement. Each one of the members will be bringing it back to its oversight board, such as I am doing this evening with you. And the hope is for final approval and signatures towards the end of October. I request school committee vote to approve the revised agreement, and certainly are open to any questions that you may have.
So I'll entertain a motion for approval of the revised MSHG revised agreement.
Second.
Kelly and then Maureen.
Yep.
Okay. So either of you have anything to say on it?
I don't really, no.
Steve?
Madam Chair and School Committee, Mr. Matthew will not take credit for this, but he has to. We're pressed by the towns on a regular basis on what do we do for cost savings, what do we do to be efficient, what do we do to identify that we're good stewards of the taxpayers' money. You look no further than the Mass Strategic Health Group that started in 2019 under the guide of Mr. Matthew, who certainly doesn't get enough credit for what he's done with this, and caps our increases in health insurance by not only starting this group, but being a leader in this group and being on their board of directors and really supporting it. So again, if the towns continue to push for how are we saving money, look no further than our Mass Strategic Health Group and what that's done. It's, had a little bumps in the early stages. I wasn't here when it was initiated, but I was here when retirees were brought on board. And there were a few bumps there, but for the most part, it has gone extremely well. For us as not only as a community, but also for other communities around us to see this level of interest now to be part of this group. And there's a unique twist to this that, again, Mr. Matthew won't take credit for it, but it certainly deserves, that, even though we're part of a group, we kind of, we work on our own stuff, our own rates, our own plans, our own existence, which is unique because usually you join a consortium and it's just one size fits all. So this is incredibly unique. This is, I'm sure people are trying to duplicate this. I know people are trying to duplicate this or join the Mass Strategic Health Group. And you as a committee in this community owes a debt to Mr. Matthew for really striking this and putting this forward as a cost-saving initiatives to prove to the taxpayers that we do care about your money. We do care about your investment in our schools, to the point where we as a district have been able to stave off huge increases in health insurance year over year by being part of this since 2019. So I respectfully, publicly commend and appreciate Mr. Matthew and his leadership and his effort in this particular item.
Great job, Rich, thank you. I have a question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering how you've increased your participation so much.
By coming up with a different type of group, basically.
Oh, something new.
As Superintendent Marsh indicated, most groups have a set plan. You have to negotiate with your union to meet the criteria of that plan. There's give and take. There's, as there is with any union negotiation. All we did was ask, why couldn't there be a local joint purchase group for health insurance? And why did we have to follow the model that the other 14 or 15 across the state followed? Why couldn't we have our own plans, and Douglas have its own plans, and Webster have its own plans? 2 of the 3 original members were self-insured. So, it was the right time, the right place, and it was a good idea, and there was somebody at Group Benefit Strategies, now Gallagher, that was willing to be aggressive with it and bring it forward. And we had it, we've been very successful in recruiting new members, and we've been to the point of actually needing to revise the agreement so that we have a little stricter control about those members that join us. Because we want to make sure that they're quality members. Yes, everybody is individual, everybody is individually rated, everybody's dollars are their own dollars. Really the only sharing involved here is the overall management, the reinsurance costs, and the pharmacy rebates and that we currently receive that we never did before. And everything else is our decision. It's within our control. So, yes, I think this is a model that, probably will get duplicated in other places. And we've even talked about, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but somewhat not, there needs to be a Mass Strategic Health Group south, north, south, east, and west, so that we don't get too large to become unmanageable at any given meeting, but, try to keep the size around 15 or 15-ish or so. Unfortunately, there are examples across the state of groups that kept growing, and they finally became too big and collapsed under their own weight, and had adverse effects for individual members.
Awesome. So you're right about at a comfortable membership right now?
I would love it. We're certainly not going to be recruiting anybody for the next year or so, and then after that we'll see where it goes. But it may be a matter of really coming up with an east and a west where our 14 kind of manage our side, a different group manages its side, and maybe there's that shared overall on the reinsurance, maybe not.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate time and effort. Thank you.
I think you can really tell from the first 3, and then how other people were like, well, let's see if it works. And then in 2022, others were, hey, it worked, let's go in. And now another set. I had no idea you were up to 14 at this point.
Yeah, well, and that's the active members.
Yeah,
we have
then,
a
like,
number of
limited.
other members that only participate in the retiree plan. And if I can for a second, the retiree plan is actually one of the more successful things. As we can bring in more members, our rate increases are capped. Again, as I reported to the school committee, I think in 2026, we'll be paying less for the retiree plans than we were in 2019. And that's because of the rate cap, and again, because of the numbers that we've been able to bring in. Fall River alone accounts for a large number of members, and, helps us prove to Aetna that we have a solid marketing plan, and Aetna continues to back us with their financial commitments as well.
Fantastic. Any other discussion? No? Okay, so all those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you. And lastly, a request from school committee to dispose of some surplus equipment. The district's planning to lease 7 new copiers to replace the ones listed below. We're going to be leasing these. We typically purchase these, but given the state of finances every place, I thought it was wise to take a baby step back into this pool and look at leasing rather than purchasing outright for right now. I'm pretty sure we'll go back to purchasing. But as you can see, the district has certainly gotten its value out of these copiers, not only in terms of age, none newer than 8 years old, and the ones that are 8 years old happen to be some of the highest number of copies, 1.9 million each. So between having the service contract on all the copiers and trying to be prudent in our replacement plans, I think we still have a good solid fleet out there that is usable. It's not in a state of disrepair, and these unfortunately have reached a point where they're no longer able to be serviced by RICO for availability of parts. Additionally, at Heritage School, they requested permission to dispose of the following items: 12 old media carts and 1 piano that is, much like myself, old and broken.
All right, so, sorry if I forget, because we only do like this disposal once a year. You need a motion
Yes,
for us
we need a
to
vote, yes.
declare them as surplus
Yep.
goods to dispose of them. So I would entertain that, please.
Motion to approve the disposal of the surplus equipment as listed.
Kelly Nicole. Any discussion?
One quick question. I assume that the leases for the new copiers are just 1 year at a time that we're doing, or is it a 3-year?
No, we're doing a 3-year
Three.
lease. There'll be a
Oh.
$1 buyout at the end.
Oh,
it's
sorry.
right
I was
there,
listening to
yeah.
you and not reading through it, and I did look at it earlier. I just didn't catch it. Thank you.
Yeah, so these will be sold. The expectation for this particular group is probably around $200 each or so. So we're not going to retire or solve any budgetary issues with the sale of these 7
No.
old copiers, but
Not with a copier that's already done 2.3 million.
again, we get our value.
Yeah, we do get our value. All right. All those in favor? Okay, unanimous again. Then moving on to the update school year 2023-2024.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to update on a couple of things. I already updated you on staff. Again, we are in need of paraprofessionals across all of our schools. If you are interested, it is a benefits eligible position. It's school hours, which is great for a stay-at-home parent. If their children are in school and they want a position, so we are looking for additional paraprofessionals. We're not the only one. This is a need across the state. You can certainly look on SchoolSpring and see. Keep in mind, paraprofessionals are called educational support personnel and aides, instructional assistants. There's several different titles, but it is a need across the entire state at this point in time. So we're not alone, but I know we do have community members who really commit to our schools, and if they're interested, we are looking for additional paraprofessionals in most, if not all, of our schools. In addition, we did have as was communicated out last week, we did have some concerns with transportation on that Thursday of last week. We did have a number of bus drivers out and a lot of overlapping drives. We fielded a lot of information on that. We did work through that. It was kind of I want to believe that it's an anomaly because we did start the school year with a full cadre of bus drivers. Something that they instituted with Mr. Matthew is they do provide a weekly report now on drivers and any routes that were changed and substitute drivers and all that. So that's a great report that Mr. Matthew gets to look at each week. If there are concerns on transportation, continue to call Ms. Kozub in our office, Cheryl Kozub in our office. She does handle the transportation matters on the yellow bus transportation. And we do know that we have some concerns with van pool, which is specialized transportation. We have tried to work through some of those. We have been in communication with some parents, and parents have been in communication with us. We do have at the next CPAC meeting, van pool, a representative, the area manager, Franco, I forget his last name.
Domenico.
Domenico, a regional manager for Vanpool, will be at that. The specialized transportation typically it does impact individuals with disabilities, so that's why he'll be at CPAC. It'll be a great opportunity to either express concerns or hear what they're working through.
Oh, I forgot to mention that the CPAC meeting will be hybrid. There's a Google Meeting link that's on the website. So you don't have to come to the
So you don't have to go, you
library.
you can log in?
Yep.
We'll get you there, we'll get you there. But it'll be a great opportunity to work with Vanpool. Again, we've been with Vanpool for 14, 15 years at this point in time. They've been a great vendor for us. Is it 14, 15? No?
No, we brought them in 2017, I believe.
Okay. So I exaggerated a little bit. We've been with them for a number of years, and it just seems like the past half a year in the start of this school year, there's some conflict with some of their timing and transportation. So we're working on it to let you know that. But there is that opportunity to meet with the area director as well. And Heather Harriman, Director of People Personnel Services, her department is certainly addressing all the concerns that come her way as well. And then the last item is we continue to have move-ins in our district, so we are looking for a motion of support for an additional paraprofessional. I know we're still looking for paraprofessionals, but when students come in with the need, it's a needs-based position. Even though we have some openings, we do have the need for an additional paraprofessional that we obviously hope we can fill for a student that we moved into our district. So I am looking for school committee motion and support for an additional paraprofessional this school year.
Okay. So we'll entertain a motion for that paraprofessional FTE 1
Yes.
for the school year. Caitlin moved, Kelly seconded. Okay. I have one thing I'd like to ask. Does that actually fall in within what you already have for special education within your budget or within the school's budget? Or how else are you going to end up putting that in to be able to pay for that paraprofessional?
So we're still working through all of the open positions and the hirings that have occurred. We do have circuit breaker that we can tap into if necessary, if the budget would so dictate, as well as the open positions that are funded in ESSER. If we can't fill those positions, then we may have to turn them into, use the funding in other areas.
Sorry, I know I jumped the gun. Did you have anything, Caitlin? Okay. Anything else to discuss? No? All right. So all those in approve? Unanimous again.
Great.
Seems to be like a track record all meeting. Was that the last of the update?
Yep.
All right. So then moving on would be continued discussion, school year 2023-2024 school committee goals. So if you look at your agenda, you'll see remember the goals that we had last year, one of which unfortunately I don't feel we actually met that goal. And then in the minutes from last meeting, it goes over a couple of suggestions that Kelly and I had, and I was just wondering, and so was Kathy, about how did we feel about those? Did we want to continue anything from 2022, 2023? Do we agree with maybe merging or adding on for what we talked about last week? Or is there anything more that you guys were thinking about now that you've had a couple of weeks to think about it? So if you're looking at the minutes that had the discussion from last time, that would be page 7 of 9.
I would definitely agree that we should be keeping a budget and finance goal. That's going to be important. And obviously, communication is always important in reviewing what you and I had discussed or brought up at the last meeting. If we can incorporate that, I think that would be important as well to do. Obviously, like you said, we can get rid of the the Shepherd Hill Building Project as a goal and maybe replace that with the combined goal that we had kind of discussed.
Putting in some actionable items
Mhm.
in the goals, so I didn't know if we should start doing that too. Do you mean like bullets underneath each goal?
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
All right, like, so, I'm, last year, when we were really looking at FY '24, which you'll see like on the end of the superintendent's report,
Mhm.
right? So, the way I was thinking about it is that one of our goals, and I still think it's a very good goal, these would be actual benchmarks of reducing the annual usage of E&D to support $500,000 per year, reduce the reliance on school choice by 20% of $180,000. So that way we could actually have a rainy day fund, especially unfortunately with the MSBA not being approved, Shepherd Hill is an aging building. Charlton Elementary has aging parts, we need to be able to think about how we're using this money instead of constantly putting it back into operational, So I was thinking of tying those in, like you have the goal, but then you have the parts that you can tick off, just like you
Right.
would be like at an IEP, right, Heather? Yeah. So, yeah, this would be a perfect time to talk about that.
So do you think that we are gonna pretty much keep the goal as written besides the Shepherd Hill Building Project? And then create actions below those?
That's what I was thinking about, and I know I had a quick talk with Kathy, and she was thinking something similar.
Okay.
I mean, last year was the first time we did goals.
But even under communication, we could put like host a community event featuring
Like,
so-and-so.
like literally in 2 weeks' time, we're gonna have a whole bunch of PTOs and community events that are gonna be like, can you do a trunk or treat?
Right.
Like we did last year,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Mhm.
So there are things that we could place in there as,
Yeah.
yes, it's been done.
Right.
I agree, but I feel like maybe we should be,
Hosting something along those lines with with the towns? Do you know what I mean? Like get some sort of workshop together or something? I mean, we'll attend some of these things that are coming up, but should we as a school committee be reaching out to towns and trying to put something together so that we can kind of all work together and?
That's what I was thinking of last
Yeah,
last
that's
time,
kind of what we
last
were
meeting, I
talking
talked
about,
about like a
but-
town hall or,
Mhm.
doing more letter writing and.
Something, set a date for some sort of, something to have at least annually, or try it and see what happens.
Or you could even set one for fall and one for spring. I mean, there was plenty of meetings where we met with a lot of boards in both Charlton and Dudley, and we didn't meet as a whole group until February, when we had that big table
Yes.
of all the different boards, so,
The joint meeting.
yeah, so I don't know if we want to set up something sooner rather than later.
Well, I mean, who are the liaisons to the Board of Selectmen's?
So Maureen and.
I don't know if we signed them this year.
No, we did.
Yeah, no, we did.
I don't remember.
I just-
And I think Nicole and I
Yeah.
said we do Charlton.
Sorry.
So
I mean, because
it's
that
just-
could be, actually being a benchmark when you show up and you're talking with them and.
And actually get that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I just think that if we're on the same page as a district, I know this past year was difficult, but if we start now, rather than.
Well, that's
in
what
the-
I'm thinking.
yeah,
I mean, FY '24 was
Brutal.
difficult to say the least, right, guys? I don't think anybody's going to not agree with that.
Right.
Yeah, whatever we can do to
And
prevent
I think
that.
moving forward for FY '25, we really need to, get to the meat of it and actually work on the goal of increasing, yes, that community, but also working with the boards of selectmen as well, and,
And the
to
finance
really.
committees too.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they do kind of intersect, but.
Yeah. But they have a lot of good input and insight into how we can go about things and questions, and so.
It's good to have the conversations anyways,
Yeah.
earlier sooner rather than later, so we're not running into the same issues that we had last year.
And it wasn't until I started going to the Charlton meetings that I realized how differently things are run in the two different towns, which isn't a bad thing, it's just they're run differently, so.
Very much so.
Mhm.
So I can't write and listen at the same time, so. So for the benchmarks then, for like budget and finance, right? Are we good with maintaining number 3, working with the communities of Dudley, like on the superintendent's report for what those are as benchmarks?
Say it again?
So if you look at the superintendent's report on the back of it,
Yeah.
right? Steve was, as always, nice enough to put the fiscal year goals right there.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, those are good goals. I wouldn't disagree that those are things that we should be working on.
Well, not really goals, budget priorities, right?
I guess priorities, sure.
Yeah.
But by attending more of these, or perhaps hosting something in the fall or a little sooner than we were able to last year as a goal, and to continue through. I don't think we need to put an amount of an attendance, but we should certainly be trying to get to as much as we can. Maybe if there needs to be 2 liaisons so that they can rotate as often as possible, wouldn't hurt either, but everybody's time is limited, so make the most of our time. But I agree that we should work on some of these budget priorities, really all of them. Continue with all of them.
So, Steve, could you correct me if I'm wrong, but for your goals, you're working on a smaller set than you would typically do because we're having a shorter year of an evaluation time,
I don't know
right?
about, I don't know about smaller, but meaning I don't know about smaller because mine's still based off the standards
Mhm.
for
No,
evaluation.
yeah,
Yeah. So I still have to come up with the at least minimum 4.
right.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
sorry, that's what I meant, like
Yeah.
nothing extra Herculean.
Not another 13 goals,
crazy,
no.
right, okay.
Yep.
So if we have 3 goals, right? We got the budget and finance, which we've kind of talked about. Communication, which we did talk more about last time. So what about of replacing the Shepherd Hill building project for this year?
A future agenda item is that we are going to have to go back in and revisit the capital plan anyways.
Mhm.
Because now that Shepherd Hill was always removed from the capital plan with the hopes that we were going to go down with MSBA. So maybe, respectfully, maybe a goal
So-
around capital planning, again, update capital planning and present it to the towns and something of that nature. Does that sound right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for remembering the entire calendar in your head.
Mhm.
I appreciate it. Okay, so, anybody have any more comments about it?
I would only like to say one more thing. Under these, the maintain existing staff size and programs without reductions that we talked about, the maintain foreign language, librarians at each schools, class size, updating websites, retaining aides, exploring full-day kindergarten. I don't think we did too much of that last year. Add accounting specialists, I think we did that. We could always, I'm sure, use more. But,
Yeah, our ad accounting data specialist, what, 8 hours?
Yes, 8 hours.
so
So,
maybe a little more to that.
It's really accounting, not data specialists.
Oh,
just to be
right,
clear.
accounting,
Just
accounting
just
8
accounting.
hours, we still,
Yes.
data
We still
specialist
desperately
didn't
need some
happen.
data specialists.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
You know,
Two separate.
you know, like, even like exploring in-district specialized transportation rather than a contracted service model makes sense. Like, if you have that $200,000 to $300,000 to try to start it, then, you know, you're, how much, do you remember how much you could save, like, if you started and?
We never pursued the rabbit down the hole.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Typically, if it's set up correctly, it can pay for itself within 2 years. Easily.
Okay. I just kind of wanted to throw out there that, in having a conversation actually with Mr. Elwell over the summer, we were talking about pathways, and I was hoping we could look into possibly adding like an education pathway. I feel like where there's a shortage of teachers, education, I think it would be pretty easy to incorporate some classes for that pathway for our students to give more opportunities in other areas without really adding on. We can probably utilize the resources that we have right now and maybe look to add that going forward for our students.
So if no one else has anything to say? No? Any
So,
more input?
These items, are we, do we have to adhere to those, or can we expand as we move forward?
Yeah, because this was last year's.
Okay.
So it's going to need some changing
Okay.
moving forward. But what I figured is that we could have the discussion, I can type it up from what it is, send it on to Kathy, and then it can be in the next, you know, in the next meeting that we have, so we can continue to discuss it, because
One of
that
the-
pesky open meeting law, you
Right.
know?
One of the things that was discussed quite a bit a few months ago was fees for athletics at the middle school level, and also,
Fees are already on the agenda coming up in October, too, so you can,
I didn't see that, and reviewing current fees. Is that included? I don't see
so
it, I'm
that
sorry.
that would be part of it. Review DCRSD fees is
Okay.
listed in future agenda items in October.
There we go. Oh, did not see that.
Okay.
I would, maybe just under the communication, I know that we talked about meeting with boards, but to kind of build off what you said about like the trunk or treats, but I think we should possibly target branching out to all the PTO, both Charlton, Dudley, and then the DCEF, and then there was one more group, I feel like, maybe
You
it
mean
was.
like the school
Parents or
councils?
something? Oh,
Yeah, or
education.
maybe the school councils would be nice to try to, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of us have been on those, but it might be nice to even just,
We usually have them come and showcase kind of what they've
Talked about too, I
Oh, I
think. Doesn't
don't
that
remember
typically
that.
happen?
the school council. I think the principals will
Yes.
come
Yeah,
and do that, yeah.
and some, yeah, participants. Couldn't hurt.
But that's just something that we can put on there, actionable, like,
Mhm.
you know, participation in each of the groups.
Well, yeah, because nobody works in a vacuum. All right, so if that's everything, can, need a motion to adjourn,
Oh,
don't we?
One more thing, Madam Chair, if I
You
could?
have one more thing?
Yeah, sorry.
Sure thing.
Just for the subcommittees, on the second page, next meeting dates.
Oh, right.
Policy sub is looking at October 5th. The robust policy subcommittee of Jean.
And Maureen.
And Maureen's on
Maureen's
policy
on
sub
it.
too? Again, I looked for it, it wasn't a complete listing that we had from the
Yeah,
June meeting
I know.
of who's on what, so. So
We did, it was at the next one, yeah,
okay.
All right, because not everybody was there.
yeah.
Okay, so the policy sub, I put the liaison, the administrative liaison for that subcommittee, so that's who you would work with to set up the agenda. If somebody could take the lead until a chair is elected from school committee to reach out to for budget and finance, curriculum, capital outlay, if somebody could reach out
I'll do it.
to those liaisons to try to set up those meetings. But again, October 5th is what we have for a policy sub right now, and that would be a Zoom meeting, is what it typically is. But we'll send that out. I have to get an agenda out early. for
Okay.
that, Okay? Yeah, you don't.
I'm lost.
Yeah, that's okay.
Don't worry about it.
There are other future agenda items as well. I tried to list out as many as coming forward, but there are others that I wanted to inform you of that we've been working on, again, other than opening up the school year. Middle school, there is going to come forward a Washington DC trip for 8th grade at both middle schools. It's coming forward this year. There is a handbook change for the middle school that's coming forward to the next meeting based off of the feedback from the last meeting about handbooks. We are going to be bringing forward, I believe, an appointment of treasurer at the next meeting as well. And then I put down capital planning, and then we will, I think it would be probably in my report, or maybe Mr. Matthews' report, to talk about some of the effort on the Charlton's deregionalization work. Because there has been a reach out to our district to provide a lot of information from our offices, again, our limited offices. Mr. Matthew has done what we do sometimes, is we asked our principals to help us out and other administrators to help us out, but we're trying to pull together a lot of information for that report, so maybe we can just give a slight update on that. And, you know, what our role is and all of that, so people are aware of what we're doing, okay? That's all I have in that now. We're going to write down the motion. That's it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All
All right.
right, motion to adjourn? Is that what you're looking for?
That is what I'm looking for.
All right, I'll give it. Motion to adjourn. Second.
All right, all the motion.
No, I know. yeah.
Second,
Yeah,
Caitlin.
sorry.
All right, all those in favor? We're adjourned.